Sutra. And she showed us how Vimalakirti used his Socratic wisdom to challenge and teach the Dharma to many disciples of the Buddha. Today, Venerable Miao Guang will continue with the second half of this wonderful and exciting Vimalakirti Sutra. Brothers and sisters, please rise and put our hands together to give a warm welcome to Venerable Miao Guang, our guest speaker, Venerable Miao Mu, Deputy Abbess of Guang, Singapore, all venerables, guests for this afternoon Dharma talk. Brothers and sisters, let's pay our respect to Venerable Miao Guang with a bow. Venerable Miao Guang, please take the speaker's seat. Venerables, brothers and sisters, please take a seat. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce Venerable Miao Guang. Venerable Miao Guang holds many roles in Guang. She is Venerable Master Xing Yun, personal English interpreter and researcher in Guang Institute of Humanistic Buddhism. Venerable is currently the director of Guang Department of International Affairs. Without further ado, we shall pass the time to Venerable Miao Guang. Venerable, please.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And dear Venerable Miao Mu and Madam Feng, our representatives from BLIA, as well as our young adults from the InterVarsity, and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Auspicious greetings to you all. Okay. And I would like to thank you for returning to the talk from yesterday. And if you're new to the talk, I would also like to welcome you. It is never too late to join the spiritual feast of Vimalakirti, since we have just managed to ascend our seats yesterday. And so this is exactly where a point we will continue with this dialogue between the world's greatest minds, the Vimalakirti the layman, as well as Manjushri Bodhisattva. Okay. And so just a recap of yesterday's talk. Okay. To have 3 hours dedicated to a sutra or a Dharma talk, it means that we are allowed the opportunity to look at this in greater detail. Okay. And so last night I took some time to introduce Vimalakirti as a layman, the enlightened manifestation of a bodhisattva shown in a householder who lives a regular life just like all of us. Okay, so a reminder that yes, you can practice the Dharma, you can learn from the Buddha without having to shave your head and don the Buddhist robe. And certainly I believe this will be a great news to most of you who are pursuing a life. See, nodding away. Okay, very good. Okay. And then as we speak of the purpose of this sutra, certainly in the manifestation of a householder, it's about how we are able to, through one of the greatest Buddhist literature in history, look at how we are able to build a home for ourselves and for others through the spirit of the Buddha and through the skillful means of a bodhisattva, as well as through the mind of what we call ourselves ordinary human beings. It certainly covers all these aspects. And yesterday we talked about how this arhat manifested the Dharma in the form of illness to teach a lesson to the arhats so that they could at least reach the same level of Socrates. Okay? To know now that you don't know. Okay? So perhaps by the end of today's session, we might know a little bit more than not knowing, to go a bit further than what the arhats have realized. And thirdly, having decided that Manjushri Bodhisattva will visit Vimalakirti on behalf of the rest of the Sangha, since none of the arhats were able to really take on the responsibility, he finally arrived at Vimalakirti's house. In the house, it was nothing but emptiness. except for a chair, which Vimalakirti took for himself to recline on because he was ill. Okay? And so they began with a very profound conversation on what the meaning of coming and not coming was. You have come, but technically you never came. And so for our young adults, after 3 long days, you're here, but technically you're not here. Okay? I believe you will be looking forward to going home to your wonderful beds after 2 sleepless nights. Okay? But nevertheless, you're still here. So you're here, but you're not here. Okay? And through that conversation, I gave you 2 questions. Okay? First of all, what does it mean by when x equals to y? Okay? Most of you reply by saying, no, I don't think x can equal to y. According to scientific minds that live and work by evidence, it cannot be. Okay? And so therefore, through Vimalakirti's words, it tells you, yes, it can be. Okay? So let's do a recap of last evening's little equation. Okay? When we say, okay, x does not equal to y, therefore x equals to y. As a result, x equals x. Okay? And that may not make much sense. So let us replace the x's and the y's with something that you might understand. Okay? Before we've talked about the fact that, yes, your enlightenment being the x, okay, through our ordinary human beings' eyes may think, my enlightenment is my enlightenment. Yours is yours, right? According to the Chan masters, yes, you eat your own food and I will eat mine. Okay? But the Bodhisattvas would tell you, okay, just think a little bit more. Okay? He told us that, yes, I am ill because all living beings are ill. Okay? That is because I feel for all your illnesses. So therefore, having transcended the 3 realms, I am nevertheless bound to the manifestation of illness, only for you. Okay? So therefore, when we put your enlightenment and mine enlightenment into the equation, okay, y being all living beings in enlightenment, and x being this you, or the Bodhisattvas. Also you, right? You're more than arhats, more than ordinary beings, but you're also Bodhisattvas. So it works like this. Bodhisattvas become ill because they want to call upon the sentient beings' compassion, to feel for others, okay? To regard all living beings as your own. Okay, how do we do that? To regard all living beings as if they were your own son or own daughter. Okay? You love your son and daughter more than anything else. And for the young ones in the future, when you have a son or have a daughter, hopefully you will feel the same. Okay? So regard them as if they were your own. So therefore, let's look at the red equation, your enlightenment. If in this case it does not equal to sentient beings' enlightenment, drawing a line down the middle, what happens? Then your enlightenment is not true enlightenment. Okay? Because being one, you cannot just take one side of the coin and say, oh, I have the answer. Okay? So when x does not equal to y, this is what I mean by therefore x does not equal to x. Okay? So far so good? And so let's go further down and take x does not equal to x into another y, leaving in brackets, right? So having become enlightened to the fact that if your own enlightenment does not equal to that of others, it's not true enlightenment. Okay? So therefore, it itself becomes a type of enlightenment. Okay? So far, so good? Yeah, somehow it makes sense. That is what Vimalakirti wants to say. Okay? And to sort of awaken us to this interconnectedness between all of us. Okay? A forest burns down in Indonesia, and now the bees in Singapore are suffering. So they have taken refuge under the roof of the exit just to your right, because it's starting to affect them. Okay? To us, by human feet, we may only work a few distances. So Indonesia will be very far away from us if we have to walk. But to think of a place that far away actually having a direct result on us, before it may not be as obvious. But clearly, the illness of the sky has shown us, yes, we cannot say Singapore does not equal to Indonesia, because we have to coexist, right? So the moment we replace X with Singapore and Y with Indonesia, okay, so to think that Singapore does not equal to Indonesia in terms of our existence, then Singapore cannot equal to Singapore as a clean and a disciplined and a beautiful country. Okay? And so this is how it works. So therefore, when x does not equal to y, x does not equal to x. As a result, x equals to x. Okay? Nice and simple. Okay? You're trying to nod along like Sariputra. Yes, it wasn't for the chair, it was for the Dharma. Silently, reluctantly agreeing. But of course, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Remember? Seeing the tip of the iceberg is a reminder of us, for us to look at how much more we can see. And so my job is perhaps to show the little tip and wait for you to uncover your wisdom to see the rest of the iceberg. Okay? And therefore, under that equation, okay, Manjushri or Vimalakirti continue their conversation by saying, okay, if we have that mindset, okay, so are you all able to follow the equation now? It somewhat makes sense so far, okay? So staying in that mindset. Now, when Vimalakirti says, okay, so how should bodhisattvas look at sentient beings? Okay, imagine you are now in the presence of Vimalakirti. So given that instruction, how would you be able to look at the rest of the world now? Okay, so we go down further into the same chapter in the text. Okay, as to see ourselves as the same of others. Okay, a bodhisattva excels an arhat in the fact that they don't seek well-being just for themselves. They also seek well-being for others. And so therefore, I have translated his further instructions regarding how bodhisattvas should look at sentient beings into a lyrics written by Venerable Master Xing Yun in Chinese. Okay? So it could be as simple as that. Okay? How do we be a bodhisattva? Okay? Can we vow to be a candle giving light to a world enshrouded? When there is darkness, what is it that we can do to offer brightness to the rest of the world? Okay. For our friends at the InterVarsity, in the past 2 days, you have been presented with an activity that pretty much runs smoothly, right? How many times has this shrine changed its formation during your stay? Just a couple of hundred times, right? If you take the movement of one chair as one single unit. But the thing is, every time you come in, it's all set. When it's tea time, you have a set of tea and a cushion, right? When it's group discussion, it's set. When it's a Dharma talk, it looks like this. And in the afternoon, when we start our general discussion, it's going to change again. So who has been there to make sure that this happens, that these are ready for you? It is our young bodhisattvas of Bliayat, Singapore, sitting in the back, trying not to doze off. Okay. So these are our young bodhisattvas who, despite their own heavy study and work schedules, offered and volunteered their time to come into this place to say, yes, we have a home. We would like to welcome you to our home where there is actually chairs you can sit on. Okay? And so this is how we can practice bodhisattvahood. Okay? To offer a chair, or to offer a candle that gives light to someone, that sense of warmth. Okay? Last night I said to Venerable Guang, hey, I feel quite honored that Madam Fong has come to the Dharma talk, to listen to all of this. You know? And so Venerable Guang says, she was my primary school principal. Okay? So Venerable Guang is not here, so I'll give it away. She's almost 40 years now, so that must have been a long time ago. But she says Madam Fong has been a very compassionate and kind principal. And there was one thing that she did to Venerable Guang which she has remembered for the rest of her life. There was a moment when one day she was in school and she felt ill. Okay? And usually when you feel ill, your teacher will send you to sick bay and say, oh, lie down and have some kind of, take a Panadol. But she was very surprised to be called into the principal's office, where Madam Fong, sat down face to face with Venerable Guang and actually just expressed her care and concern for her. Are you okay? I hope I can take care of you, something of the kind. And so Venerable Zhefang said to me, even though that was a short moment of conversation from the principal, but she could completely feel the care and concern of this madam who's taking care of the entire school. Maybe back then it was hundreds of children. Okay, but paying attention to such detail, you could change a person's life. So she remembers a kindness that has been given to her as a little girl. And now, she has personally taken up on the role of student recruitment at Nantian, right? To hopefully to bring more students to the beautiful place called the Southern Paradise so they can study and grow there. And so it was, yes, the light has been passed on from one bodhisattva to another. And how are we able to do that? And I feel that Madam Fong's story reflects just back to Vimalakirti's instruction. How do we regard all beings as if they were our own? When you walk on the streets, may you think all our elderlies are our parents. Okay, so when some elderly may be having trouble cross the road or have trouble finding a place to sit, imagine if your own mother and father is in that position. Right? It would take you no effort to move forward and to offer a helping hand. Okay? And if you see little brothers and sisters on the side of the road, you think, oh, if they were my own little brother and sister and my friend, would I just hold them into my arms and tell them, don't be afraid, I'm here for you? Okay? Do you think it's hard to do? Not so hard, right? To show the simple care and concern of a human being is the action of a bodhisattva. And so, how can we be a bodhisattva? In this song, it says, we vow to be a candle, giving light to a world enshrouded. We vow to be a brush, painting beauty everywhere around. We vow to be a street light, shining on the way. We vow to be a book of wisdom. Let the truth be all you say. We vow to be a flower, bearing fragrance, sweet perfume. And we vow to be a cloud, bringing coolness to the summer's bloom. Vow to be a breeze, bringing comfort on the wind. Vow to be a rainbow, bearing beauty from within. So this is thus how a bodhisattva vows. I vow to be, I vow to be, I vow to be more than I am. Therefore, I am a bodhisattva. Okay, so the Sutra of Vimalakirti goes into chapter 4 to talk about this is how we regard sentient beings as practicing Buddhists. And you don't have to attain some kind of supernatural power or extra knowledge. All you need to do is to be that kind and compassionate person that you have always been. Then you can do so much more. Okay, so I believe, once again, our young adults would have really felt, the friendship and the presence of our YAT members all around. They really, truly want to be there for an event like this, so that when you go home, you feel like you have taken something home. Okay, just a moment to think about that. If you feel that, yes, these 3 days have been worthwhile, then our young bodhisattvas have achieved their goals for InterVarsity. And perhaps in the future, may you also return to be on the team and to serve others. Okay, this is a wonderful, wonderful home. You see joy, you see kindness, you see compassion, and you see the youth of energy. So Bodhisattva's Pure Land is right here in front of you. Okay, your first step to visualizing what your perfect home will be. Okay. And now let's go back to the empty room. Okay, the empty room now has 32,000 giant lion seats. Okay, when Bodhisattvas and Sariputras, Arhats, including Sariputra, have ascended those giant seats, either with their own power or the support of the Buddha. Okay, Vimalakirti goes on to create the next trouble. Okay, my next gift to you for visiting my house. And so let me turn it into a question. Now, how sticky are you? Okay. You think, I took a shower yesterday, I'm not sticky, right? There's aircon in here, I'm not sticky, okay? But imagine, okay, when you're sitting in that room, okay, you think about the topic of emptiness and what the bodhisattvas want you to be in that state of emptiness. Okay? So stickiness turns into what we become clingy onto. Okay? Would you say you have attachments? What is the name of the thing that has the greatest number of attachments in the whole world? Emails. Okay? Please don't send me an email without your attachment. Okay? But we become attached to so many things. We rely on information, rely on our cell phones, okay? We rely on our families, and we become very attached to our bed the moment we lose sleep. Okay? So the arhats too are yet in that state, okay? Although they have attained the emptiness of their own being. But right now, they are still drawing that line in the middle. My enlightenment is not yours. X is not equal to Y. Okay, so Vimalakirti decides to show them a little lesson. Okay, so at the scene, there were 8,000 bodhisattvas, 500 arhats in the presence of Vimalakirti and no one. Okay, so suddenly, a beautiful lady walks into the room. Okay, nicely dressed up, very elegant, holding a bunch of flowers, walking around. However, the presence of this lady did not impress Sariputra. Okay, so Sariputra, after his attachment to the seat, starts to think, what is a lady doing in the presence of these great beings? Okay? It is inappropriate for a woman to be present in this room. Okay? Somehow a rather traditional biased view back in those days. And fortunately, we don't have that nowadays. Okay? And so the lady, having heard Sariputra's mind, starts to sprinkle flowers all over everyone. Okay? What happened was when the flowers, the petals, fell onto the bodhisattvas, the petals naturally slid off the bodhisattvas' bodies. Okay? However, those ones that landed on the arhats became sticky and became attached to the arhats. Okay? So the arhats looked down and tried to slap it away. Okay, but no matter how hard they tried, the petals just wouldn't drop. Okay, so what is going on here? It means the arhats are probably sticky. Okay, so in the process of trying, the lady speaks up. Okay, as she speaks, you will start to discover who this lady actually is. She was no ordinary woman either, just like Vimalakirti is no ordinary layman. So therefore, the lady turns to Sariputra, very, very bold and daring, to the greatest leader in the pack, and says, "It is only because of your afflictions, which are not yet exhausted, that the flowers stick to your bodies." Okay? So in this case, the petals of flowers are forms of what? Our attachments. Our attachments to our body, to our hair. It's quite interesting to say that whenever I mention the fact that you don't need to shave your head if you to learn Buddhism, all of you tend to have that relief face. Good. And then some of you touch your hair. Right? It's so unintentional, but it's so natural as a part of you because you have for all your life been living with your hair. Right? So there's that little moment when you feel, okay, my hair makes me secure. Okay, hair is beauty to women, and so on. So yes, the flowers is pretty much the same as your hair. You become sticky to it. And the lady continued and said, "For you who have afflictions, flowers stick to you. But for those in whom these influences are not there, the flowers will not stick." And these will refer to the bodhisattvas. Right? And trying to change the subject, okay? Or actually, I think it's Sariputra's attempt to figure out who this lady is. Who are you, you mysterious flower-sprinkling lady? Sariputra then turned to her and said, "Oh, how long have you stayed in this room? Okay, I have not seen you before. How long have you been in this room? When did you come in?" Okay. The lady said, "I have been in this room for as long as you have been emancipated. Okay. I have been in this room for as long as you have found liberation." And so Sariputra said, "How long?" And the goddess then said, "How long has it been since you became liberated?" Okay. And then Sariputra felt silent. Okay. This power of silence starting to show. But not willing to give him a break, this lady continued to ask, "Okay, what is your greatest wisdom? what is the wisdom behind your silence? Okay. We talk about Vimalakirti's thundering silence, okay, in later parts of the sutra. So for all of us, I believe at one stage, some of the monastics have tried that. Okay? When you come across an answer which you don't feel the need to answer, you kind of remain silent. Okay? But sometimes it's out of escapism, and sometimes it's just a moment of blank. Right? For those who don't know, they'll think, wow, you're so wise. I now know my answers. Okay? Very convenient. And so therefore, the lady wants to clarify with Sariputra in this case, what exactly is that silence of yours? I want to see if that actually represents emancipation. Okay? And so Sariputra's answer is, emancipation is not to be spoken of. So I don't know what to say. Okay? It's something that which cannot be spoken of, so don't say it. Okay? And then the goddess says, why? You should say something, because speech and words are simply characteristics of emancipation. So if you're a person who has been truly liberated, you won't be afraid of speaking. Okay? And so that is why we enjoy so many question and answer sessions from Venerable Master Xingyun. Sometimes he never remains silent. He's always ready to answer your questions. I remember there was a time when we met a group of young adults, right? Young adults are quite interesting. They can always think of something to challenge the speaker. So this young man from America turned to Venerable Master Xingyun and said, how many chant masters does it take to change the light bulb? Okay. And Venerable Master thought about this and said, you will do. Do it yourself. Okay. Why do we need to ask someone else to bring light to you when you can do that action? Okay, so this is from the words of a truly enlightened mind. Okay, so the goddess, seeing through Sariputra's mind, and says, look, stop clinging to form. Stop clinging even to the fact that words are empty and start saying something. Okay? And so their conversation thus continues. Okay. And remember when the lady entered the room, what other thoughts also crossed Sariputra's mind? The inappropriateness of a lady to be in the presence of the great arhat, right? And so some of them started to think, okay, why would Sariputra think of the inappropriateness? And so he would simply say, because women are not in accord with true Dharma. 女众不如法. Okay, how does this make sense? Okay. And so, time to teach him a little bit more lesson. So the lady suddenly says to him, okay, I am a lady because I am a lady. Okay. Then Sariputra asks, why don't you transform your body if you are enlightened? The lady said, for the past 12 years, I have sought the characteristics of being female and have comprehended it to be unattainable. The idea of female itself is not really attainable. So why should I transform something that is unattainable? Is it as if a magician created a conjured female? If someone asks her, why do you not transform your female body? That question would not be proper. It's like, why are you a man? Right? I'm a man. Yeah, why are you a venerable? Geez, go and look into the mirror, ask that question to yourself. Right? A man is a man, and a monastic is a monastic, and a woman is a woman. So why dwell into the difference? Okay, why are you a woman? My answer would be karma. Not yet wisdom, so my answer now will be karma. Okay? And therefore, the goddess continued by saying, this is exactly what all dharmas are like. They're just as they are, yet they are not really what they are. Okay? They're just as they are as in the essence of, for example, love. Love is love. Okay? But when a hug is a love, how can you say that a slap is not a love? Right? A parent's slap on the face on a child can be love. It's just that at that age, when we were young, we probably were so subsumed in the fact that it was my brother's fault who broke the cup. Why do I get the punishment? That we forget that our parents is really saying, be careful with yourself. Therefore, to us, to the children, it isn't love. Okay? X is X, X is not Y, and so on. And so all dharmas are like this. It's without some kind of determinate characteristics. So there's no point in asking why do you transform your body into a female one. And then probably Sariputra did not get the point. Okay, so next the goddess used the power of numinous penetration and turned Sariputra into a woman, and then turned herself into a man to demonstrate that yes, man is a man and man is not a man, right? And so suddenly, now imagine the figure in the center in the dress of the figure on your left, okay? Rather displaced, right? It's not a wonderful thing because we are not used to it. An old man in a fairy goddess's dress, maybe flying around sprinkling flowers. Okay, well, to some of us may think quite a strange and horrific theme, right? Because we're not used to it. And so as she transformed her own body to Sariputra, this male lady turned to the female Sariputra and said, why don't you transform your body back into a man? Okay. And so Sariputra was stuck. This point he had to be honest. He said, I am not able to transform back to my original body because I don't know how I got here. Okay. I don't know what you did to me to turn me into a woman, so I don't know how to turn myself back. Okay. And then the lady said, if you were able to transform this female body, and if you can do that, then that means all the women in this world will be able to transform their own bodies into men. If you can, then everyone else can. Okay, X equals to Y. And so are all the males likewise. And that is to say, although they show themselves as female, they are in fact not female. They are beyond that. Okay, we can see this in a lot of the venerables at Guangshan. Okay, although they were born ladies, but they act like men. 大丈夫相，我们的觉尘法师，我们的妙木法师。Okay, they're always there, standing in front of everyone, in the face of government officials, in the face of natural disasters. Okay, how can you say that women are not ready to be in the front, to guide everyone in liberation works? Because they have done it. Okay, Venerable Miao Jing rushed into the flooded areas of Philippines to make sure that she can deliver food to those who are affected without thinking of her own safety. So therefore, these are all females who have shown the characteristics of females, but in fact are not females. Okay, so once again, x equals to y, x not equals to x, therefore x equals to y. Okay? So it's that simple. You just swap it around and you realize in the end, everything is the same. Okay? And so having done that little power, okay, so the lady decides that, okay, she wants to stop doing that. So she probably clicked her finger. So Sariputra was fortunate enough to get her man body back. Yeah, I feel safer now. Okay? And so the conversation continues. Okay? He wants to know a bit more about who this fairy is. 天女散花，这个天女到底是谁? Who exactly is this heavenly being? Okay? So he asked her the next question. When you die here, will you be reborn? Okay, obviously, raising a question to a heavenly being. Would a heavenly being be reborn? Okay. And so the lady says, wherever the Buddha's conversion is born, likewise, I will be born. I will be where the Buddha is. Okay. Sentient beings are likewise without death and birth. Okay. We are always in the presence of Buddha, not in the physical form, but in our true Buddha nature that connects. Okay. Okay. And so Sariputra continued with another question. So how long will it be until you attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi? How long will you take for you to attain enlightenment? Okay. When we get asked this question, I would always say, okay, just wait a little bit. Wait. When the time is right, I will tell you. I'm not there yet. Okay. But the goddess would say, when you are reborn as an unenlightened ordinary person, I will achieve Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Okay? I will become supreme on the moment you become ordinary. Okay? So Sariputra kind of gets worked up. How does this work? I am an enlightened arhat, so I tell you, this will never happen. I will never go back to being an ordinary being. Okay? And this shall not happen. Therefore, the goddess said, my attaining of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi in this case will never happen then. Okay? If you never become ordinary, I will never become enlightened. Why? Because the idea of enlightenment does not abide on any kind of characteristics. Okay? It doesn't come with any quality by saying, oh, I have practiced so many thousands of hours, I have meditated for 50 years, therefore I can attain enlightenment. Okay? There are no attachments that come with the idea of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, or the perfection of wisdom. Why do we say that? Because there's nothing to attain. Okay? Starting to sound familiar in the Heart Sutra. Okay? 菩提萨多因般若波罗蜜多故，心无挂碍，无挂碍故，无有恐怖，远离颠倒梦想，就近涅槃。什么什么以无所得故。Okay? So the Bodhisattva, relying on Prajna Paramita, okay, attains nirvana to realize that in the end there was never really anything to attain, not even nirvana itself, because 以无所得故, nothing to attain. Okay, so there's a little link between the Prajna Paramita ideas between the Vimalakirti Sutra as well as the Heart Sutra, something which we have been chanting every day. So all along we have been telling ourselves, yes, there has never been anything to attain. I have never came because there is nothing to attain. Okay? It's not to be attained because even before I came, my Buddha nature has been with me. Okay? So that's why we are sitting here. But technically, where are we? Okay? Where we are supposed to be. Okay? And so we discovered that, yes, the Dharma can be spoken in many profound ways, not just in the form of Buddhas. Like we said, regular Buddha sutras start with the Buddha in a place, a question being raised, and then answer provided, and everyone becomes happy. Right? That is a type of conformity in the writings we come across. But this is another example for us to see. Not even Vimalakirti has taken up the main role in the sutra. Even a fairy goddess can speak the Dharma. So in other words, when you go out there, a tree can speak the Dharma to you. A bird can speak the Dharma to you. Just in very wondrous ways. Okay. So hopefully Sariputra will be satisfied. Okay, what's next? We are still in the room of Vimalakirti. Okay, there's nothing but chairs. When you go to a friend's house, we have been talking about this for 2 hours, including last night's 1.5 hours. Okay, being a guest in someone's house, just talking for 2 hours, what would you need next? You will probably get hungry, right? There's no drink, there's no food. We've come to your house, show some courtesy to your guests. Okay? So Sariputra starts to think, oh, is there nothing for us when we're starting to get hungry? Okay? See, Sariputra, quite a bit of a sacrifice. The wisest arhat known in history or in the Buddha's time is being humiliated and ridiculed in so many ways. And we are thankful for him for willing to take up this role. Nevertheless, he's a bodhisattva too. Okay? And so sitting down and thinking, okay, where is the food? Where is the food? Okay? So Vimalakirti will say, okay, it's true that we all have to eat. Okay? Finally, we have a chair, we get some dharma, but we have to eat. But before we eat, let's decide what kind of food you want to eat. Okay? What kind of food do you expect to eat at Guang, Singapore? Special of the day, nasi lemak. Okay? Yesterday it was a hot pot noodle. Okay? You try everything. Right? You actually come and say, oh, there will be at least one thing you expect of Guangshan. That is, I come to eat vegetarian food. Okay? Because that's what the temple can present. But nevertheless, when we look at the different types of food, we either as sentient beings or cultivators who are pursuing it, it can be divided into 2 major types. Okay, we come to Guang, Singapore, yes, for food, okay, for the beautiful and the delicious food in the water drop tea house. So the first type will be called the worldly food, okay, to feed our worldly human body. Okay. And even worldly food comes in many ways. Okay, let's talk a little bit about our experience with food. Okay. The first type of food is how we regularly take it. Okay, you're given a plate of dumplings. So how do you eat the food? You put it in your mouth, right? That's a little joke my sister always played on me. When we went to a restaurant, right, you will see food presented in very sophisticated ways, right? And so I would say, 这个怎么吃啊? How do you eat it? And my sister would say, eat it with your mouth. Obviously, I meant, do you have to take this thing out of the wrap and dip it in some kind of sauce? Maybe wait for 2 minutes for it to dissolve or something. Okay, but it's quite true. Yes. Why not just go back to the straightforward mind, 直心, right? It's just as it is. So eat with your mouth. Therefore, the type of worldly food is the food that we put into our mouth when we taste it, and when we smell its fragrance, we're able to get full. Okay. And then, have you ever thought of the second type of food where you don't have to eat, but you will get full just by touching it? Okay. Has that ever happened to any one of you? Yes, it probably has, especially to the chefs and cooks. Right? Your moms at home will always say, oh, I don't feel like eating, just cooking has made me full. Right? So just by touching the food, you're already full from it. Okay? It happens to us. Right? What about the third type of worldly food? Okay. You're sitting here, right? You may not be a vegetarian. Suddenly you think about, okay, I'll stick to my example of KFC. You think about KFC, right? You think, oh, it's all vegetarian food. I'm not used to it. I'm so hungry. I want to eat something that can make myself full. So you sit there, you start to think about those juicy, succulent double-deckers, the burgers that come with fries, and maybe a little drumstick. Horrifying view to me, but delicious to you, right? So as you sit there, suddenly you will start to feel full, right? You just think about it. See, you're all smiling. I can see a little bubble above all your head, thinking, wow, I can see different types of food now, right? It just pops up because, your wonderful experiences with what you have eaten actually stays with you. So whenever hungry arises, it opens on a switch and your favorite food shows up. Okay? We have a few monastics from America. She grew up and lived there. And so having spent about 3 or 4 years in Taiwan, I would ask her, what kind of food do you miss? And then she quickly turned to me and says, oh, spaghetti, pizza, hamburger, right? Because it's the kind of food she's used to. And then she has this very satisfying smile on her face. I'm full now. Right? So just by thinking about it, yeah, you get full. Okay, so as ordinary beings, we can get full in these 3 ways. Tasting, smelling it, touching it, or even just thinking about it. Okay? But if Vimalakirti would let us off the hook that easily, then we'll be happier, I guess. Maybe not. Okay? So certainly he is here to show us the different types of food called the transcendental food. 入世的食物跟出世的食物. Okay? The worldly food and the transcendental food. And what happens is, there are also 5. Okay? The first type of transcendental food is food for thought. Okay? You read a good book, you read the Dharma, okay? And then this wisdom, when it seeps into your head, you feel joyful. Okay, so there would have been a moment when you actually picked up a book and stayed with it for 4 hours without needing to get up to find something to eat or go to the bathroom, right? You enjoyed reading it so much. Okay? I remember this happening to me when I read Harry Potter in university. Okay? I was so involved with the world and the kind of magic they could do. I picked up the book at 8 o'clock, and by the time I finished reading the 3rd volume, it was already 5 in the afternoon. I never left my bed. Okay? So food for thought. But in this case, food for Dharma. Dharma for your thoughts. Okay? So by thinking, it allows your wisdom and your kindness to grow. And by thinking of that, it becomes a food that feeds on your happiness and joy. So you become happier and happier. And now the second type is called the food of the joy of Dharma. Okay? Another type of thought. But to say, having attended a 7-day meditation retreat, usually into the 5th day, okay, you start to not feel hungry. Right? Your body feels lighter, you feel more awake, and you feel less desires to, for the snack time to come. Okay? In the first 3 days, if you go to Guang at 3:30 in the afternoon, there will be a moment when you return to your seat, cross your legs, right, and look down, and they will place a big bun in front of you. Okay? You can feed yourself, have a cup of tea while the Venerable Master speaks about the practices of Chan. Okay? So in the first few days, you kind of look forward to that. Okay? But then suddenly on the fifth day, you realize, oh, I don't really need to eat it anymore. I'm not hungry. Why? Because the long-term state of meditative concentration has lessened your physical desires to sleep or to eat or to do anything else. Okay, so the power of the joy of Chan, 禅悦为食. Okay, so a lot of the times when you walk past a venerable at Guangshan, when it's mealtime and they're not eating, and if you ask them, oh, how come you're not eating? A lot of them will turn to you and say, 我禅悦为食. Okay, it's become a jingle or a slogan. Okay. And now the third type of transcendental food is what we call our vows. Okay. When you are very involved or dedicated to something that you want to do, you forget about the need for food. Suddenly you get full. Okay, you feed on the power of your vows as you progress towards a goal that you want to do. Okay, for example, I vow to finish this 4,000 jigsaw puzzle piece by 5 o'clock today. And then you realize it's 2 o'clock and you're only halfway through. Right? So you keep going. But that vow keeps you strong. Okay, vowing to do something. Therefore, there will be moments when you feel that you're tired and exhausted on your path of cultivation. May I just remind you that it is a true blessing for you to find a home like this, okay, a spiritual home. It may not have to be a home of Guangshan, okay, but when you're working and when you're interacting with different types of people, there will be moments when you feel that you have been emptied out, right? And there's no one you can trust. And there's no one who can talk to for you to have a break or for you to gain some kind of guidance. But at Guangshan, when you come, you become each other's companions, right? This morning you were chanting together with such a unanimous voice, right? And at lunchtime, everyone is really enjoying their lunch, sitting next to each other. And now you're sitting here, okay, listening to, a talk that is focused on perhaps the Dharma or some kind of advice or guidance that can help you progress. And so therefore, one day when you're suddenly without this home, you may start to miss it. Okay? You forget to think about how important and how joyful this place can be to you. Okay? There is a very famous Chinese poem, 横看成岭侧成峰 远近高低各不同，不识庐山真面目，只缘身在庐山中。Okay? A hill from the front and a peak from the side. Okay? Each view a different side, up close or from afar. Each side a different view for you. And so why is it that you fail to see the true face of this mountain? It's only because right inside this mountain you are. Okay, so sitting in a mountain of jewels sometimes make you forget that you're sitting on a piece of diamond right now. Okay? So there will be moments for you to sort of move away from it, get a view, and really think about, okay, when I'm tired, what can sustain me on this path? Okay? Some will say, yes, I will be sustained on the food of wisdom. Right? I read books, I read sutras. And some would be sustaining themselves on the joy that they gain from being a part of this place, the cultivations and the practices. And some will be sustaining themselves from the power of vows. Okay, I have vowed to be of service. I have vowed to contribute to this religion or to this temple. So how can I forget the vow? Okay, so do a little refreshing every once in a while to ask yourself, okay, amidst all the hustle bustles of life, okay, how am I able to keep on this path of purity? Okay, so renew your vows every once in a while. And then last but not least, the moment when you feel like you don't need anything, it will be a moment of liberation. Therefore, the fourth type is what we call the food of liberation. When you're no longer attached to any kinds of physical or mental need, you don't need to get anything. Okay? You naturally be a part of enlightenment and joy. Okay? So having talked about this, let's go back to Sariputra. Okay, Sariputra is thinking, you've said that, but still we are hungry. Do something about this. Okay, as ordinary beings, we're still hungry, so what are you going to do? And so therefore Vimalakirti says, okay, if you want food, I will bring you food. Okay, a very far distance away, there is a country called fragrance accumulation, 香积国. Okay, and in this land there is a Buddha called 香积佛, Buddha of accumulating fragrance. Okay, and so this Buddha will provide you with a type of food that just by smelling its fragrance, you will already feel full and satisfied. Okay? And so this is actually happening, with the astronauts in space. Right? You take a pill, and on the package of the pill, it says fried chicken. On the other one, it says dark chocolate. Right? But it all looks like a pill. However, whenever the astronauts take that pill, they will actually get that taste of fried chicken or dark chocolate. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, it's actually happened. Okay, science can actually bring us to that kind of state where we can depend less and less on our physical needs to satisfy only what the brain thinks what it wants. And therefore, in this case, the fragrance from this country is a rice that will give you a lot of nourishment. Okay? And Vimalakirti continues to say, what kind of nourishment can this fragrant rice give to you? 香鸡饭. Okay? He says, first of all, once you eat that, a fragrance will radiate from your body. Okay? So your body will no longer stink. Okay? No more deodorants. Okay? No more, I don't know what you call it. Okay? You don't need to apply any more cosmetics to your body. So for the ladies, imagine you have this rice. When you travel afar, you no longer have to carry that little bag of cosmetics. Okay, 20 little bottles. Before you go to bed, you lie them out, right, on the table and thinking, God, this is before the shower, after the shower, before I go to bed, and after I wake up. Right? I don't use them, but I have a sister. Okay. She was like that every time we went out. I was thinking, how can you do that to yourself? Okay, aren't you supposed to come out and have fun and relax? But you have 2 suitcases, of cosmetics. So I guess all she needed would have been this fragrant rice, 香鸡饭. Okay. And what else does it give you? It actually gives you a kind of strength to keep going. Okay. You get all energetic and you're willing, to, especially on the path of cultivation, and say, oh, I'll keep going. And this rice will slowly take away your defilements. And even for months, you will not feel hungry or thirsty. And what's even better, having taken this food, your body will feel very light. You will no longer need to go to the bathroom. Okay, what a liberation, right? And so what kind of food is this Buddha of accumulating fragrance talking about? Can you really experience this kind of food in reality? We probably can, okay? Remember, by smelling, by touching the food, you can already feel full. That is the power of your mind. And so what he wants to say is, yes, you have come to this spiritual feast, so actually get a spiritual feast. Okay, find something that will enrich your spirituality. In this case, in our case, maybe the Dharma. Okay, so try reading a Stephen King novel, and then reading a Buddhist sutra, for example, the Vimalakirti Sutra, and observe the changes in your mind. Okay, you will start to see, oh, I'm actually tasting this fragrance of the Dharma. Okay, and so that too, going back to what we can do, okay, we too can also be sprinkling flowers and feeding people, with some kind of fragrant rice. Okay? And by flowers, it could mean the simple act of giving, right? A word of compliment, okay, or a simple smile. Okay? It's so wonderful to walk around the temple and you see men, women, ladies, boys, venerables, teachers, everyone smiles at you. Okay? But when you go out there, you might discover that you become weird when you smile at people. Okay? We've been holding these summer camps for about 1,000 mainland Chinese youths every year. And every year when they come, this is what touches them the most. No matter where you go at Guang, people will be willing to greet you, say 吉祥, or smile at you. Okay? But when reality hits, okay, the struggle comes when they go home. The moment they hop off the plane and they land in Shanghai, while they're still in that mode, 吉祥, right? Everyone else starts to look at them going, what's wrong with you? Okay. So these young people would write back to us and say, oh, what should we do? We take on this joy at the temple, but when we go back to reality, we are not able to apply it. So how is this supposed to help us? Okay. But ladies and gentlemen, what kind of world do we wish to live in? Do we wish to live in a world where others decide how we feel? Or having gotten a little glimpse into our own mind in the form of the power of non-duality, may we start to have a little bit more confidence in ourselves, okay? To believe that, yes, when I smile at someone, they will feel your mind, okay? They will feel my sincerity, okay? We don't smile because we have this defensive mechanism, right? Thinking, yeah, you don't want to talk to me, so I'm going to pretend that I don't care, okay? But that moment when you start to smile, I tried this. In my first 10 years at Guangshan, people called me an ABC. They called me the young one from Australia, okay? But before that, having lived in Australia, when they saw me, they would call me the Chinese from Taiwan, okay? So I didn't know where I was. Okay? I don't know how to fit myself in, so I forgot to smile, okay? And so Venerable Master would say, why do you look like a frightened bird? Okay? So I would always be like walking close to the wall with my head down, don't look at me, okay? But in recent years, having been, forced into the position to, start giving talks and lectures, okay, I have discovered that I get frightened, I get intimidated on this seat only when I feel that you are not connecting with me, okay? I once told somebody my second ever Dharma trip was to Singapore, okay? But by then, I was not familiar with how our Singapore friends express themselves. So they were all like this. I said, are you happy? Okay. How's the talk so far? And so I started to get really intimidated, okay? But a few years of practice, and I think I'm having more opportunities to speak to our friends here, I realize, that's just the different ways of expression, okay? 新加坡的朋友都是比较慢热 According to Venerable Guang, you heat up slower, okay? But it doesn't mean that you don't have that warmness in your heart, okay? So I tried a different approach. When I walk up to my friends, from the yard, I told myself, okay, I'm going to be the one to start a joyful interaction. So I said, oh, Jessica, how are you today? Okay. And although she was involved in some kind of discussion, right, when she turned to me and saw my smile, she smiled in return. Okay. So that's the effect of your mind that could happen when you have sufficient confidence in yourself. Okay. Believe that, yes, the Dharma can help you bring joy to yourself and the rest of the world. Okay, believe in yourself, especially to our young friends. And therefore, a little sprinkles of smile, a little sprinkles of kindness. How are you today? Okay, it would be a wonderful kind of flower that you can sprinkle. And surely, even if it sticks to somebody, it would be a joy that sticks. Okay? And as for 香鸡饭, the fragrant rice, okay, how about it becomes a moment of generosity? Okay, when we give a gift to someone, we usually choose what we like the most, right? We usually would think, oh, I love this. Hopefully she will like it too. So 香鸡饭 in this case is a mind of generosity, right? Even given in the form of objects or actions or even simply food. So that is why the cooks and the chefs in Guangshan's kitchens are always told to have a mind of offering. 你要有供养心。如果你没有供养心，你不能再大聊。Okay? If you don't think that anything that you cook should fulfill the hunger and make people happy for those who come and eat it, then you shouldn't be in this. Okay? So that is why when you go into the kitchen, you will see them smiling, cooking anything you want, obliging sentient beings. Therefore, that's how we are tasting 香鸡饭 in reality. Okay? And now, let's go back to the conversation. Okay. We're still inside the room. Okay, I wonder if we can get out of the room by 3:30 tonight. Okay. So having had their hunger satisfied, okay, the conversation goes back to Vimalakirti and Manjusri. Okay, the fun has ended. We stop turning Sariputra into a woman. Right? We go back to the more profound parts. Okay, so my question for you: how loud can the truth be to you? Do you hear the truth speaking to you every day? Okay. Not to suggest the fact that you should be hearing things, okay? But the truth that speaks to us in so many different manners could sometimes be so normal and regular that we forget it's the truth, just as the air we breathe. Okay, so when X does not equal to Y, sure, when haze does not equal to a good environment, right? X can still equal to X. Haze can equal to our enlightenment for higher awareness for a better environment. So bad is not always bad, good is not always good, depending on how we see it. And so now I would like you to turn to page 3 of your handout, which is chapter 9. Okay. But we've got half an hour, so bear with me. Let's look a little bit more about the conversation between, the wise people. So on chapter 9, the Dharma gate of non-duality, okay, finally having settled down all the guests with food, with chairs, and with a little clarity of the kind of mindset you should have when you're in this room, do not discriminate. And now let's go into the most important part of the text, where the two talk about the gateway of non-duality. Okay. And so let's go to the page and let's read a bit. At that time, Vimalakirti said to the congregation of bodhisattvas, "Sir, how does the bodhisattva enter the Dharma gate of non-duality? Each of you explain this as you wish." Okay, so the class starts and say, why don't all of you talk about what you think our main point today, that is, the gate of non-duality is about. Okay, so how about I too also give you a few moments to think about what duality is to you now. Think about it. And as you think about this, let's go on to the first bodhisattva. Okay? Still continuing from point 1. Within the assembly was a bodhisattva named Autonomous Dharma, who said, "Sir, generation and extinction, 生灭, that is samsara, constitutes a duality. Since the dharmas were fundamentally not generated, now they're without extinction. 不生,所以不灭. Okay? If you don't arise, you won't extinguish. To attain this, forbearance of the non-arising of Dharma is to enter the Dharma gate of non-duality." Okay? Quite a good opening of the conversation and saying, yes, you're talking about duality. Let me give you an example. What does not arise does not extinguish. Okay? And bringing this back to the mind, okay, as I mentioned, the fear in my mind, having watched The Ring, right? So from there on, I don't think I ever wanted to watch horror movies. Okay, they obstruct my sleeping. But everything, nevertheless, be it arising or non-arising, it's not just about the phenomena you see around you. It's also the thoughts that arise within you. Okay, 2 weeks ago, we had the honor of inviting Professor Louis Lancaster from the University of Berkeley to Taiwan for a week. He was very kind to run a 1-week workshop on the translation of Buddhist terms. And so we arranged a room with a dining area and a sleeping area for him. Okay, so and on the first 2 days, everything was fine. Until the third morning, Venerable Yozai came rushing to me at 7:30 in the morning and saying, "Oh, Venerable, Dr. Lancaster is stuck in his room. He's not able to come out. He cannot come to class." So I asked, what's going on? And he said, they found a snake in their room. Okay? A colorful yellow snake. You know when snakes are colorful, they're most likely poisonous, right? And so it took them about half an hour to ask, to find somebody to finally come and pick up the snake. And so how did they actually discover the snake? They were eating breakfast. And so at the foot of the dinner table, there was a little snake wrapped around the foot, like the shape of a cloud, sleeping there. Okay? And that caused a bit of a mayhem, so they started to wonder how they can get rid of the snake, at least take him out of the room. And so Venerable Huifeng, being a very experienced snake handler, having stayed in South Africa and New Zealand, and he said, oh, let's put a towel over the snake. Okay? Why? When snakes are in darkness, they fall asleep, they calm down. Okay? Snakes like to dwell in darkness. Okay, so they tried it. But since they were really nervous, not knowing whether the snake was actually poisonous or not, so they put the towel on and they said, okay, what's next? How do you pick it up? Right? And so they started this conversation. By picking up, it means you just pick it up. Okay? And so very frighteningly, Venerable Huifeng takes up the towel, looking at, with both of his hands, shaking. He said, oh, where's the snake? Where's the snake? Do you have it? Right? So they're looking at this tower. And then William, this young man from Singapore, says to Venerable Huifeng, I'm sorry, Venerable, the snake is still on the floor. So he's looking at this towel, being very frightened that it's inside the towel, that the head could stick out any time. It was actually on the floor. Okay? And so that was to no avail. But luckily, our security team came and arrived and took away the snake. Okay, so good thing class started at 8 o'clock as usual. And so we started to talk about the incident. Okay, so we're thinking, how did the snake end up in the room anyway? Okay, it's in a building, like it's a concrete building. It's not near trees. So where did it come from? Okay, and so sitting at the dinner table, Venerable Huifeng, Dr. Lancaster, and I suddenly looked at each other with a very serious face. Oh, it was probably there from day one. Okay? And they're going, and then so we continued through this conversation about, I wonder why we were not afraid in the first 2 days. We sat down and ate with the doctor. The doctor stayed in the room and surfed the internet in that same room all along, probably with the snake in that room. But he wasn't afraid at all. Okay? But in the morning, that realization that he was sleeping under the foot of the table suddenly caused a great mayhem. Everyone was so scared. Okay? So shen and mie, okay? That thought of the snake not being in your mind, if it was never there, then you would not have to deal with the fear of the snake. Right? 不生所以不灭. Okay? And 生了就会有灭. Okay, so therefore the two, once again, x equals to y, therefore x equals to y and x equals to x. Okay, so 生 and 灭. This is my reminder of duality. Okay. And now let's go to the bottom line of page 3. Okay, read a bit more about what the Bodhisattvas have to say about duality. And here it says, the maintenance of virtue, Bodhisattva said, the self and the self's attributes constitute a duality. It's because of the existence of the self that the self attributes occur. If the self does not exist, then there are no attributes of the self. Okay, we've talked about this last night, about the fact that when we don't really feel ourselves, when we don't feel the presence, right? And then all of your attachments to the self may for a little while go away. Okay? And so running out of time, continuing on to point number 3, unblinking bodhisattva. I quite like Dr. McRae's translation, the bodhisattva who does not blink, or he never unblinking, not doing the action of blinking. Okay? Where it says, experience and non-experience constitute a duality. If dharmas are not experienced, they cannot be attained. Because of unattainability, there is no grasping, no forsaking, no production, and no activity. So the Dharma in this case means everything that happens to us. So we experience something in this world, we react to it. Okay? Going back to my own monastic experience again, the scariest experience of a monastic at Foguangshan is having to report to a Venerable Master about our jobs and tasks. Okay? He is usually very kind and generous, okay? But at times when he needs to instruct a disciple, he could be very strict. Okay? And so sometimes he will get worked up, sometimes he will talk louder, right? But for young and inexperienced monastics, they would become very afraid and thinking, oh, I've done something wrong, right? But it was fun to really watch the elders beside him, although they have the same interactions with him, talking about very important affairs. But even if Venerable Master screamed, right, they would not have even batted their eyes. They would still sit there and go, okay. Right? Such a big difference. Right? So that experience actually comes from the way you want to respond to that phenomenon that is happening. Okay? We preset a condition to what's going to happen. Okay? I broke the cup, so mom is going to yell at me. So even before your mom speaks up, right, she turns her head and you would jump, right? Right? Because that's your pre-assumed condition. That is the experience. Okay? So discussing that experience with Venerable Master about how we are so afraid to talk to him, Venerable Miao actually turned to me and said, what if you just regarded him as a very compassionate grandfather? Okay? And think about how you react with your grandfather as a granddaughter. You simply express your concern and then you try to connect with him. Right? And so in the process of saying that, I relaxed a bit more. I went into the room and I reported to him, about the happenings of my job without thinking, okay, what's he thinking now? Okay, is he going to respond? Is he listening? Okay, is he going to be happy? Okay, would I be doing something wrong to stir him up? Okay. Putting all those thoughts aside, now I became much more relaxed and general and natural. And then the experience became much more enjoyable. Okay. So letting go of the presumptions. Okay, you just be who you are, that kind, generous, and sincere you. And simply this experience will no longer be what you think it used to be before. So, okay, can you sense his lack of response? If you don't sense it, then you won't worry about it. So, these are all true. Okay? And now, if we keep going down to the page number 4, page 4 and point number 5. The crown of virtue Bodhisattva said, defilement and purity constitutes a duality. Okay? If one sees the real nature of defilement, then there is no characteristic of purity, and so on. I once grew up near a market in Taiwan. Okay? I went downstairs and there was a market, a vegetable market that was filled with water puddles because there was all kinds of animals, and water everywhere. But I could remember when I was young, I used to walk around the market barefoot. I didn't mind what I stepped on. And when my foot touched the water, I was actually quite happy because of the coolness. Okay? And then after I moved to Australia, a much cleaner and neat country, okay, there was no dirty water puddle of the sort. Okay? And I was pretty much walking around always with my shoes on. Okay? So I did that for 12 years, and then I came back to Foguangshan to renounce. Okay? And there was a day during our full ordination ceremony when we lived as a community. Okay? So 100 people shared about 10 showering cubicles. 100 people, and we had about 40 minutes. So you had 4 minutes to shower, pretty much, right? And something to my surprise was that when I walked in, I realized to the usual experiences of the presence of a pair of slippers, in those shower quarters, there was nothing. Okay, you go in with your arhat shoes, you come out with your arhat shoes, which meant that I had to step on the shower floor with my barefoot, maybe after 20 or 50 people have used it. And I remembered that very first experience, I thought to myself, this must not be very hygienic. Okay? It's weird, when you step on the foot and you try to wash off your foot many more times. And then I discovered, what has actually changed? How come it didn't bother me as a young girl to walk around the market barefoot? But it bothers me to stand barefoot in a shower room. Okay? A simple matter of impurity and purity arising. To you, what is pure and what is impure? It can come down to a matter as simple as that. Okay? So that's why piggies love to roll in mud piles, right? But if we throw a person into the mud, he will start to feel very uncomfortable. Okay? A different state of the mind, But what it wants to say is that the essence of the matter or the Dharma has always been the same. Mud is mud, water is water. But Miao Guang is no longer Miao Guang. Okay, too many preconceptions. Okay. But last one, the most famous quote, which is point number 6. The excellent I Bodhisattva, who says, the single characteristic and the non-characteristic constitute a duality. If one understands that the single is the non-characteristic, and does not grasp it, but enters universal sameness, this is to enter the Dharma gate of duality. Okay. Let me translate that. What he's saying is that one equals many. Okay. Once you can see that one equals many, then you can see your oneness with the rest of the world. Okay. The characteristic of one equals to infinity. Okay. And the very famous example would be to use the reflection of the moon in many rivers. Right. Later into the night, especially going back to the countrysides when you are not affected by the lighting or technology, you will usually be able to enjoy a very bright moon. Okay? But one moon in the sky can be seen on thousands of rivers. 千江有水,千江月. So wherever there is water, you will be able to see a moon. Okay? And that's how we are asked to perceive the Dharma. Okay? It doesn't have to be that one, that particular one. But as long as you can see it, the many becomes the one. Okay? A few years ago, there was a Mid-Autumn Festival, which just passed. It was in Foguangshan, and so Venerable Master invited the entire monastery down to the Buddha Memorial Center, for a little feast. So we were all happy. We carried like hundreds of boxes of moon cakes and pomelos, candies, and some prepared to sing. Okay. Unfortunately, when we set up, it was a very cloudy night. The cloud was so thick, we could not see the moon. Okay. So we were wondering, okay, what should we do now if we're not able to enjoy the moon? Okay. How is the Mid-Autumn Festival going to turn out with Venerable Master? Okay. And bearing in mind that Venerable Master has pretty much lost his sight, he is not really able to see anymore. The first thing he said upon arrival to everyone, okay, we quietened down, waited for him to speak the Dharma. He turned to us and asked us, where is the moon? 月亮在哪里? Okay. And so we all looked up and say, it's behind the clouds. It doesn't want to see us tonight. But Master continued by saying, 月亮就在你心里. The moon is in your mind. Okay. So it doesn't matter if the cloud is there. It does not matter if the cloud does not clear up. As long as your mind sees that bright moon, you can enjoy the evening. Okay. So that is the one and many. Okay. When we feel the essence, when we feel that we are together, that's what actually matters. Okay. The thing about family gathering is not really the food on the table or the entertainment, but rather the spirit of family and bondage. Therefore, one becomes many. Okay. And so having said that, okay, let's go to point number 32, still on page 4. I've kind of cut out some parts of it because I don't have enough time. And so about 30 or 40 bodhisattvas all give their rendition of non-duality. Okay, coming down to the last, Vimalakirti turns to Manjusri and says, you're the smartest one. Tell us, how does the bodhisattva enter the Dharma gate of non-duality? Manjusri said, as I understand it, it is to be without words and without explanation with regard to all dharmas. Without manifestation, without consciousness, and transcending all questions and answers. This is to enter the Dharma gate of non-duality. Okay. Having said that, he turns to Vimalakirti and said, what about you? Your turn. Tell us what you think it is. Okay, so this man, Vimalakirti, he said nothing but silence. Okay. In reply, his reply was silence. Later on known as the thundering silence. This is the loudest that the truth can ever speak to you. Okay? Responding to Manjusri's comments that it's beyond language, therefore, it does not need to be spoken of. Okay. The very famous 一墨一生雷. Okay. In the past few years, Venerable Master has been writing one-stroke calligraphies. And there was a year when we came close to a monastic seminar. A year when about 1,200 monastics of Guangshan fly back to Taiwan for a seminar and training. And so he decides to write a piece for every one of us. Okay, it took him about 2 to 3 months, writing, numbering, labeling. And what we did was we were given a number by random, so we have a piece. Okay? And one of the monastics happened to get 一墨一生雷. Funny how the Dharma reflects your mind. Okay? That other thing about this monastic is that she never stops talking. Okay? 这是什么？这是什么？告诉我啊！哎，你怎么了？你怎么不告诉我？ What's this? What's this? Why aren't you telling me? Okay, let's keep talking. Right? So she got this piece, 一墨一生雷. She looked at it. She goes, "What does this mean?" Okay? And another monastic from China turned to her and says, "It means shut up." Okay? Sometimes no words is better than words. Okay? So quietness and silence can help you speak your mind so much faster. So 一墨一生雷 is the perfect translation, shut up. Yeah. But of course, in the mind of this great elder, he tells you everything is beyond what we need to say. And so the clock tells me that I have 8 more minutes. Maybe I need to shut up too. Okay. But for some closing remarks, okay, we are reading all of this to come down to one final question. How real is the Dharma to us? Okay? Are we just talking the talk? Or can we also walk the walk? Okay? Has any of this been able to really help you clarify your questions? Or has any of this helped you develop some kind of confidence or awareness into what you can do, to better yourself? Okay? That is the ultimate question. How do we actually apply all of this to our everyday life? Okay? And so in my closing remark, I would like to have 5 suggestions to how we can continue with our understanding of the Vimalakirti Sutra. Okay? Remember, being a layman, even though the Dharma could be extremely profound, it nevertheless is about connecting us with reality. So point number 1, even though we're living in this mundane world, okay, may we keep a transcending mind that continues to seek Dharma or wisdom. And second, as we set our foot in Singapore, may we also set our eyes on the rest of the world, because one is many, many is one. Right? The internet has already helped us achieve it. We connect with each other every day. And so are we able to connect with each other in positive energies by making positive comments and positive thoughts? That's how we become one. And thirdly, we may have to walk our own walks of life, doing our job and playing our role. But let us try to stick to that genuine and realistic self. Okay? No matter what it is that you do, you may remember in order to succeed, it's not about the role that you play. It's not about you being an executive or how much money you make. Rather, we understand that, yes, it's such a competitive society, right? Especially in Singapore. Venerable Zhefang tells me that the young adults in Singapore are not allowed to fail, let alone the adults. So you have to keep striving, right? Always trying to be better. But it comes to a point when you have the same skills, how do you excel other young adults who are after the same goal as you? Okay? So Vimalakirti's messages in this case will tell us, yes, just be that genuine and realistic yourself. Okay? What comes down to the deciding factor in the end is how genuine you are, how sincere you are as a person, and how honest you are. This will probably be the most important quality in you as a human being. Okay, so please think about that. And last but not least, when you pursue a place called paradise, okay, don't forget that there are still a lot of things in this world that you can be grateful of. Okay, so wake up in the morning, think about the things that you're grateful for. I'm grateful for a healthy body. I'm grateful that I still have many friends who care about me. I'm grateful that I have a family with me who can go through the thicks and thins with me. So that makes reality much more beautiful than heaven. Okay? And so may you always think about these tippers from the sutra to live as a practicing Buddhist in the real world. Okay? One final story to end the Vimalakirti Sutra. Okay? Once there was a very rich man. Okay? He felt very troubled about everything that goes on in his life. So he went to a monastic to talk about his troubles. And so at the end of the conversation, the monastic handed him a little packet and says, there are 4 slips of papers in this packet. Okay? Open one up in the morning, one before you go to work, and one when you come home, and another one when you finish working. Okay? And so on the morning, the man opens up for the first slip of paper, and the slip of paper says, go to the beach. Okay? So he goes out, and then he discovers that, wow, the air is so fresh, and the sky is so blue. How come I have long forgotten about the beauty of nature? Okay, so he feels quite relaxed and happy. And then he goes home to have breakfast, and upon that moment, he opens up the second one that says, smile. Okay, so he starts to smile to his wife and his daughter while having breakfast, and that too influenced his wife and daughter, so they all smile back. Therefore, the 3 of them left for work and school with a happy mind. Okay? And before he started working, his 3rd slip of paper tells him, praise others, okay? Speak good words. So he started to praise his manager, to compliment his workers and all of his staff. And so everyone smiled back and were joyful in return, so they worked very hard and effectively. Okay? And then at the end of the day, when he went home, he opens up the 4th slip of paper. And it says, go to the beach. Again. Okay? But this time, go to the beach and write down all your troubles on the sand. Okay? And then watch it get washed away by the ocean. And tell yourself, all my worries will be leaving with the water, and it would all be gone. Okay? So he felt very refreshed and happy. That was a way for him to let go of his defilements. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for joining me in the 3 hours of these talks. And hopefully, through the words of Vimalakirti, you may be able to find a way to wash away your defilements. If you want to dance your troubles away, and remain a wise and a joyful layman who stays connected with the real world. Okay, best wishes to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Venerable Miao Guang, for your precious teachings. And today I believe all of us has learned a lot. Like for me, I've learned about the offering of warmth and kindness to others is also a form of practicing the Bodhisattvahood. So all of us can practice the Bodhisattva way. Brothers and sisters, and we would like to take this opportunity to thank Venerable Miao Guang for your enriching and inspiring teaching. We hope that you will visit us again and be forward to more Dharma teaching from you in the near future. Brothers and sisters, please rise as our venerables and guests leave the hall.